Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower. Modern Grower is your source for time and labor-saving farm tools, such as the Paper Pot Transplanter, Quick Click Seeder, and the Jang Direct Seeder. Turn laborsome tasks into free time with tools by Modern Grower.
I've talked to some people who view micronutrients as they're obviously needed for plant physiology, but they are available in the soil if the biology is there to unlock it, be that arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi and other soil microorganisms that can break those down and get those in contact with the plant roots. Where do you stand now in terms of the importance of these micronutrients when it comes to plant growth in the soil?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would put myself firmly in the school of if you're doing the cover crops, you're keeping the soil you're not disturbing the soil. You've got diversity, and then incorporating livestock. I'm definitely of the opinion that we can unlock those things. So I haven't changed that, but I do think that things like micronutrients, and again, I'm still in kindergarten, but I think the judicious use of micronutrients and even small amounts of other macronutrients in the soil, in foliar applications, may unlock a lot of the potential of the soil, especially in degraded soil. One of the things I've become more aware of is the role of calcium that I'd never heard about, for instance. So I'm trying to experiment with that over here in pot tests and things like that to see, well, if I apply calcium to the soil, how, for instance, would that help my vegetative growth? And those are questions that I'm still working on.
Yeah, and I think when some people hear of studies like that, they want to turn to an amendment. And there's a huge industry out there that sells stuff to farmers and gardeners to put on the soil. And you can just see boxes and boxes of it. When it comes to these micronutrients and even macronutrients, do you think the problem is us not adding them to the soil? Because when people say, well, they're important, they're not in the soil, how do they get there if I don't put them there? Where do you stand on that?
Well, I would imagine there's a balance. Let me tell you some of the stories that I've seen over the last 5 or 6 years where there's a particular, there are a couple of operations that I've consulted to for the last 5, 6 years. And for instance, and in one of the studies I did, for instance, we did not apply potassium to a certain set of static plots, 10 static plots. We didn't apply potassium for 4 years, and we took 6 crops, corn, wheat, soybean crops, so 2 rotations of that. And we found that where we did not apply potassium, the ending soil test potassium values were higher than where we did apply, where we did apply fertilizer potassium. So we have seen that in many cases, even though you don't apply the recommended nutrient, your soil test value actually improves. I've seen this on another couple of farms where on the one farm where we haven't applied any phosphorus or potassium for several years, and those values pretty much hold steady. They go up and they go down depending on the weather. Where we have applied chicken litter in 2 years out of 3, we've actually seen steady increases in soil test phosphorus, not a surprise, but also things like increases in soil test calcium. So there's no doubt that we have witnessed increases in nutrients sometimes where those nutrients haven't been applied. And the thing in common with many of them is that they've had cover crops. One of the things I run into often if I say, hey, this we haven't put lime on this place for several years, and the pH has stayed steady. And then I say, well, we put chicken litter out there 2 out of 3 years, and immediately, folks say, well, that's the thing. But where we haven't used chicken litter or lime, we've seen very, very steady values. And this is in the work I've done, it's been the Malic 1, which is a sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid double acid extraction. So we just haven't seen any change, whereas 5 years ago we were warned that if we didn't apply fertilizers, our nutrient stocks would crash, and we haven't seen that.
It's a pretty interesting study. And if you think about that, for the average person listening to this, you start with a plot and you're not adding anything. And you've taken a soil test up in front, so you know what the potassium value is in the soil. And then years later, it is increased, but you haven't applied potassium. Where has the potassium came from?
Yeah. Well, I listened to a lovely talk by Richard Mulvaney. He was actually talking to my brain's just gone dead. In a podcast, but basically, the potassium, we've got more potassium in the soil than we know about, and so plant roots access that, and then of course your mycorrhizal fungi and all of the biology accesses that. And soils don't end at 6 inches; they go down into the subsoil. And in the coastal plain of South Carolina, with many of our good soils, between 8 and 12 inches, we get into a B horizon, where your clay begins to, your clay begins to increase. So even though we have one-on-one clays with low CECs, we're still seeing quite a lot of potassium. So what we seem to see is that the potassium in the rock matrix becomes available through, we think, biology. I'm sure there are other chemical processes, but so it goes from the rock matrix inaccessible to what we would call exchangeable, to then to soluble, and these are in a dynamic equilibrium. And we think that when we add a lot of biology to the system in terms of cover crops, or always having a living root, either cover crop or cash crop, we're kind of keeping that biology going. And so we're bringing that calcium from the mineral, and it's being made, not the calcium, the potassium. And the same goes for something like calcium as well.
Hello, growers. Protect your crops from harmful insects with Modern Growers Insectanet. This top-tier insect netting made by Modern Grower shields your plants from pests and harsh weather, boosting your yields without harmful sprays. Insectanet's unique design allows 90% of the light to pass through and is easy to use with low tunnel systems like our Quick Hoops. It's soft, elastic, and durable, perfect for field use to help ensure that your crops thrive. Say goodbye to pest damage and hello to healthier, market-ready produce. Invest in Insectanet and see the difference it makes. Get Insectanet at shop.moderngrower.co or using the link below.